If you're getting ready to tie the knot in the beautiful state of Massachusetts, you've probably got a million things on your mind right now, right? The venue, the flowers, the guest list. But before you can actually walk down that aisle, there's one massive hurdle you absolutely have to clear: the legal paperwork. So today, in this explainer, we're going to build your ultimate, completely stress-free checklist for successfully navigating the Massachusetts marriage license process. Let's get into it. Let me ask you a serious question. When you finally say I do, are you absolutely sure your marriage is actually going to be legal? I know it sounds a little crazy to even ask, but it's a very real concern for a lot of couples. You see, unlike most states across the country, Massachusetts has absolutely zero county clerks, literally none. Instead, you have to navigate this number right here, 351. There are 351 different cities and towns in the Commonwealth, and every single one of them has its own clerk, its own counter hours, its own appointment rules, and its own local fees. It can feel incredibly fragmented and overwhelming. But don't worry, we're going to make perfect sense of the whole shebang today. Okay, let's dive into this by clearing up the absolute biggest point of confusion. This trips couples up constantly. What is the difference between a license and a certificate? Well, your marriage license is what you get before the wedding. Think of it as your legal permission to get married, and it expires in exactly 60 days. Your marriage certificate, on the other hand, is what you order after the wedding. That is your permanent legal proof of marriage. That's the paper you're going to use for name changes, passports, adding a spouse to your benefits, all of that. You absolutely have to get the license before you can ever get the certificate. Step 1. Meeting the legal requirements. Before you even think about setting foot in a town clerk's office, we need to make sure you actually qualify under state law. So here are the foundational rules you really need to know. First off, you must be exactly 18 years of age or older to marry. Thanks to a very strict law signed back in 2022, there are absolutely no exceptions to this anymore. No parental consent workarounds, no judicial approvals for minors. You literally must be 18. Now for some good news, let's bust a few common myths. You actually do not have to be a resident of Massachusetts to get married there. You do not need a blood test. They abolished that way back in 2005. And surprisingly, Massachusetts doesn't even require any witnesses to be present at your ceremony. So if you want to elope with just the two of you, you are totally in luck. When you go to apply, you obviously have to prove your age. And this brilliantly illustrates the state's graded, hierarchical scale of acceptable identification. You can't just walk in with a random piece of mail or a gym card. Clerks strongly prefer primary documents. We're talking a certified birth record, a valid passport, or a Massachusetts Real ID. If you somehow don't have those, they'll step down to secondary records, like a baptismal record. And if all else fails, they have a very strict list of alternative proofs, things like an immigration record or a life insurance policy. Do yourself a favor, bring your primary ID, and make your life incredibly easy. Listen up, because if you've been married before, you really need to pay close attention to this next part. You actually don't need to bring a physical divorce decree to the clerk's counter. However, you will be signing an oath under the penalties of perjury. In Massachusetts, a divorce doesn't just instantly finish. It doesn't become absolute until 90 days after what they call the divorce nisi has been granted. You must be absolutely certain that those 90 days have fully passed and your divorce is 100% finalized before you can legally apply for your new marriage license. Step 2. The step-by-step application process. Assuming you meet all those legal requirements, you are ready for action. Let's walk through exactly what happens at the town clerk's office. Here is the physical journey you're going to take. Step 1. You and your partner must go together in person to file your notice of intention of marriage. Now, you can use any of the 351 town or city clerks in the state for this. It doesn't matter where your ceremony is actually taking place. Step 2. You're going to swear an oath that everything on your application is the absolute truth. And step 3. You pay the filing fee. Remember earlier when we talked about how every town is different? The fee varies wildly. In Attleboro, it's $25. Down in Boston and Cambridge, it's $50. So always check ahead of time and make sure you bring the right form of payment. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, well, what if my partner is deployed overseas right now? Or what if they're severely ill? Massachusetts law is notoriously strict about both of you appearing in person, but there are some very narrow legal exceptions. If one of you is in active military service, incarcerated in a county or state facility, or hospitalized, and you can actually provide a doctor's medical certification, then the state will allow one partner to file the paperwork alone. Outside of those extremely specific scenarios, you are both marching up to that counter together. Step 3. Handling delays and the strict timeline. Once you've paid your fee and sworn that oath, you might think you get to walk right out with your license. Not quite. This is the most crucial element of Massachusetts wedding law, the ticking clock. You do not get your license on the day you apply. Massachusetts enforces a mandatory 3-day waiting period. And get this, the day you file doesn't even count toward the 3 days, but weekends and holidays do. So if you apply on a Monday, you literally cannot pick up your license until Thursday. And once it's finally issued, the clock just keeps ticking. Your license expires exactly 60 days from the day you originally applied. If day 61 rolls around and you aren't married yet, the license is completely void. You have to start the whole entire process over from scratch. But what if your wedding is literally tomorrow? Panic time, right? Well, if you're in a massive rush, you do have one legal out. It's called a marriage without delay court waiver. You still have to file your intention with the town clerk first, but then you take this special form over to a local probate or district court, pay a $195 court fee, and essentially plead your case before a judge. If the judge agrees that it's expedient, they'll sign the waiver, you hustle it back to the clerk, and they'll hand you your license immediately. It takes several hours of sitting around in a courthouse for sure, but it is your only legal way around that 3-day wait. Step 4. The wedding day logistics. All right, you've survived the bureaucracy, you've got the physical license in your hand. Who exactly is authorized to stand up there and pronounce you married? Massachusetts gives you a few traditional options here. You can use a local justice of the peace or a recognized Massachusetts member of the clergy, like a priest, a rabbi, or a minister. But here is a massive detail that trips people up all the time. If you are bringing in a clergy member from out of state, they can't just show up on Saturday and marry you. No way. They must apply for a certificate of authorization from the Massachusetts Secretary of the Commonwealth literally weeks in advance of your ceremony. And that certificate has to be physically attached to your license. Now, what's really interesting about this next option is how Massachusetts handles friends and family members who want to officiate. Because, let's face it, that's incredibly popular right now. If you want your best friend or your uncle to marry you, they can actually apply for a 1-day solemnizer certificate directly from the governor's office. For a fee of about $25, the state grants them special legal permission to officiate your specific wedding on your specific date in your specific town. It's an absolutely wonderful way to personalize your ceremony. Just make sure they apply online a few weeks ahead of time. So the ceremony is over, the cake is cut, you're dancing the night away, but the legal work isn't totally finished yet. It is now your officiant's job to fill out Section 20 of your license, and they have to use strict, permanent black ink, no crossouts, no stray marks, or it gets rejected. Then they have to return the signed license. Here's the golden rule, folks. They must return it to the exact same town clerk where you originally applied, not the town where you got married. Once the clerk receives it and processes it, which takes about 10 to 14 days usually, you can finally go online or call them to order your official permanent marriage certificate. Pitfalls, exceptions, and final tips. We are in the home stretch here. Let's bulletproof your plans against some common bureaucratic tropes so your application goes perfectly. So we established that Massachusetts absolutely requires an in-person application. But what if you work a crazy rotating hospital shift? Your partner works opposite hours, and you literally can't get to a town clerk's counter together while they're open. Our source material actually reveals a fascinating workaround. Because Massachusetts honors the full faith and credit clause of the U.S. Constitution, it legally recognizes marriages performed online through out-of-state jurisdictions. A huge example of this is Utah's entirely digital marriage program. Going that route bypasses the Massachusetts in-person mandate and the 3-day waiting period entirely, and it results in a marriage that is fully 100% valid in Massachusetts. Pretty wild, right? Because we are dealing with 351 different municipalities, I want to leave you with a vital piece of evergreen advice. Town hall hours change. Fees go up without warning. Some offices, like Boston and Belmont, require appointments that you have to book weeks in advance, while others happily accept walk-ins up to an hour before they close. Always call or check the specific website of the city or town clerk you plan to visit before you leave your house. Taking 3 minutes to verify will save you a massive headache later. And there you have it. You know the age limits, the exact ID requirements, the 3-day waiting period, and exactly how to get that license successfully filed and returned. With this explainer under your belt, you are completely ready to tackle the bureaucracy head on. But you know, it really makes you wonder. With workarounds like Utah's online system gaining so much traction across state lines, are we witnessing the end of traditional town hall marriages altogether? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me today, and a massive congratulations on your upcoming wedding.